Hello everyone and welcome to our weekly news roundup by blockchaingamer.biz. Today is Friday the 12th of January and I am your host Jenny Jordan and with me is co-host John Jordan. Hi John, how's it going?
Hello, how are you?
Hello, good, yeah. I'm going to start by kicking off with the headlines of the week, which have been fairly varied really, from investments to store launch by Sky Mavis. We have had some NFT sales, game NFTs, and we've got discontinued data coming out of discontinued games from the big list. So the first thing, I think that's the kind of main topic. So 31% of all announced blockchain games have been discontinued or canned. Now, to give this some context, the data comes from the big blockchain game list, which started in 2021. Started by you and me, John, but it's a separate project from blockchaingamer.biz. And we basically started tracking all the blockchain games that were out. And during the years, we've sort of kept going through that data to see which projects are still going, which chains are they on, have they sort of taken a... are they sort of getting more blockchainy, or are they getting less blockchainy, and so on and so on. So out of those games, which has accumulated to over 1,000 projects, 31% we found have now been discontinued. Not all of them announced as cancelled. In fact, most developers just seem to not announce anything. They just stop communicating with their community through social channels and so. And some of them, obviously, they do like a big announcement that we lack funding, we can't keep going. We've decided to not do blockchain anymore, it's too complicated, or for whatever reason. So, yeah, that's it. So, do you want to talk us through a little bit more of that, John?
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, you're correct. So the list started when I started it a long time ago now, and then you sort of took over really at the start of 2023, being the main person looking at that. So this is really sort of your research. You worked really hard on this, so thank you for that. And what sort of the list first started out as sort of like, let's sort of look at all these new blockchain games and what chains they on, and that sort of stuff. And then it sort of became apparent to me that, and maybe talk about this in the future podcast, you couldn't do that forever, because obviously, if you're me, you believe all games are going to be blockchain games, and I don't want to be running a list about every game. And as you say now, it's about 1,000, and you can imagine, as good times come back in, this number's going to go up. But we did sort of start to note that it was interesting that games. And the first one, I think, actually was Animoca's F1 Delta Time game. And the reason they stopped doing that was because they didn't want to pay for the F1 license anymore. So they put out an announcement saying, we're not working on this game anymore. This game is discontinued. And that sort of sparked something in my head. And that's, I think, when I created the discontinued tab. And the first one in there was F1 Delta Time. And we started to put reasons in there. But as you say, as we sort of got more into it, we realised that most projects just stop. They just sort of run out of money, and their Twitter shuts down, or their website's unavailable, and so they don't really formally say that. So it's only really the big established projects, the proper professional projects, that actually formally say something. So I guess examples. What
you'd say is like more often it would be games that had some funding, so they have some sort of responsibility with you're sort of communicating why their plans have changed.
Exactly. Yeah, and I think Mecha Fight Club was the sort of the good example of how to do it, in the sense that they raised $40 million or something, I can't remember now, but they did the NFTs, dropped on Solana, and then they decided they were going to switch to AI back in sort of the depths of the crypto winter, and they paid everyone back for their NFTs. So that was the perfect. Other people have done that as well, not so many. And then you have games, I guess, a bit like Goals, which is a sort of a soccer game, and they were sort of blockchain, and they raised like $50 million, and then quite recently they decided we're not going to use blockchain anymore. So there's different, there's things, there's people sort of switching their attention to other games, to other areas of games tech. There's people just deciding, obviously in the crypto winter, that crypto, as you say, is either complicated or doesn't really provide what they think it would have provided in terms of community. But the vast majority of these, so if you had 1,000 games on that list, the vast majority of those were sort of community projects that sort of like, enthusiastic people, maybe never made a game before, managed to, raise hundreds of thousands or maybe a couple of million with an NFT drop in the good times. Didn't really know what they were doing, and sort of the project just sort of fell apart. And obviously some of those were outright scams. Most of them weren't, but they're complicated things. So that's what we're trying to sort of measure in this research. And as with all research, there's also boundaries of the sort of accuracy and that sort of stuff. But I think I'm pretty happy with it. It was when we first started talking about this, I sort of thought 25% probably that was sort of what I thought was going to be the attrition rate on this. So coming in at 31%, that's a little bit higher, but it's not like 50%. And I think maybe I would say this, wouldn't I? The surprise for me is that it's not sort of high. If you consider just sort of how bad 2022 and 2023 have been, it's sort of amazing that only 31%. Again, we've had to take a gut feeling about a lot of these projects, and we've sort of our sort of rule of thumb has been if they've not updated their socials for like 2 or 3 months or so. And it's hard to do because some people just are still active, but they're retweeting other projects, and so I'm sure there's some that we've put in there that probably aren't discontinued, and some that we haven't included that are. But 31% seems about right to me. And we're going to do some more data. So that's across all the blockchains. But if you drill down into individual blockchains, you get some sort of more interesting granulated data. So a bit of alpha, as they say here. So stuff like Polygon and Ethereum, about 30% of the projects there are discontinued. But I think the highest that we've seen is Wax, which is a smaller blockchain. Had quite a lot of projects in the early days, and that's down. About 60% of all the projects, over 60% of all the projects that launched on Wax are discontinued now. Solana is not quite that high, but fairly high. Obviously, Solana had a really bad time in 2023. Sui seemed to have announced a lot of games and then sort of backtracked on it. Nothing's really happened on Sui, so a lot of those have been sort of wiped out as well. And actually, Remix, which is quite a buoyant platform, but it wants to have 100 games, so it's announced a lot of things, and obviously things haven't worked through. So again, that was sort of quite high. So you sort of see the discontinued nature sort of is skewed towards certain blockchains as well. So it's data we're sort of looking to build on. I think we both think it's interesting from that point of view. I don't know if anyone else finds it interesting, but we do. So.
What we have found is that there are so many games out there now compared to when we started, and if you look at sort of App Radar's data, or there's plenty more of those lists around now and databases, and they would kind of include everything, like those scammy projects that you kind of mentioned that we have tended not to put on there if they're like so obviously scammy. We don't cover betting, we don't cover sort of general just social apps and stuff. And what's become sort of clear to us is that it's actually more interesting with these vast amounts of projects out there to look into the better quality ones, the better well-funded, now that we've got a bit of a sense of which ones are more sustainable, which are gonna last and keep building. So what we're gonna do is to sort of narrow down our attention a little bit and focus more on kind of the top 50 games in development and the top 50 best live, and then still try and provide this kind of bigger data as well to predict trends and so. But it's actually become more relevant to look more at fewer but sort of more quality titles.
And I think, as I say, that was quite early on. That was where I felt the list was going to, if it was going to continue and be useful, that was where it was going to end up. There's no point trying to be comprehensive on a field like this. You really want to have you wouldn't need to be comprehensive enough, clearly, but you want to be, a curative sort of presence and going, these are the things you should be looking at. Because even now, I feel, as someone who's been in the industry like whatever it is, 6 years, just there's all these projects popping up all over the place, and it's just like, it's just a massive data, which is how I felt when the list first started, actually. So I think, for the whole industry, focusing on the good stuff and pointing people towards the good stuff is sort of where our future is. And we've, to be fair to us, we have always had that. So we've had the most anticipated tab, which is games in development that we think are super cool, and then we've had the best live tab. So we've pretty much always had those, and we're going to be formalising those a little bit more. And then we've had sort of, you've been running this fully on-chain game sort of tab as well, which is just a project that you're interested in and you think that particular sort of emerging sector deserves a bit more attention. So that's sort of where we're looking at, in the future for that sort of stuff.
Yeah. And it is interesting to look at kind of the growing kind of chain migrations, which we've sort of got also from the list, looking through and seeing just the vast amount of games that have been migrating either to go multi-chain or completely changed network. And so we've recently had Hytopia, the game and creative platform, announcing that they are moving their layer 2 Hytopia chain from Polygon to Arbitrum. And that follows a trend we've seen with lots of projects moving from Polygon to other networks. So that was one of the news this week. Yeah. Does that come as a surprise to you?
No, not really. I mean, we'll sort of be joking about Polygon. Everyone's gone from Polygon, and that has been because Polygon has taken a step back from the sort of marketing biz dev side of things, and that's annoyed a lot of people. There are a lot more opportunities now. So previously, you sort of had, you had sort of Ethereum, Polygon, BNB, Solana. That's probably about it now. And as we had the rise of these L2s, so these layer 2 solutions, which are particularly focused around Ethereum, because that's the most valuable chain, but it's very slow. So we've had Arbitrum and Optimism as two of the big ones, Base and Coinbase. But there's a lot, Starkware. So we're just seeing there's a broader trend within blockchain, which is sacrificing a bit of security for a lot of performance, which is obviously games. You could argue need less security than DeFi, and games really want a lot of throughput. So that sort of makes sense. And so so I think even if people weren't moving from Polygon, they'd be sort of moving from existing Polygon technology into sort of Polygon new technology. So with that Hychain example, they were using Polygon Edge, I think they were calling it, and Polygon stopped supporting Polygon Edge as a tech because they're doing this CK EVM rollup stuff, and so that provided the opportunity for Hytopia to go. We're going to move to Arbitrum. I can't remember, Arbitrum Nitro or something. I can't remember. All these different chains. So sort of that. Even if they weren't moving from Polygon, I think every chain is sort of moving to an L2. And in terms of Hytopia, they're actually splitting out their game. So the game is like a blockchain version of Minecraft. But they're also having like a game they call it Game Division, which is doing the infrastructure for that game, and they're going to do infrastructure for other games. So they're going to allow other games to use their Hychain and create L3s, which are sort of app-specific chains. Again, that's another big trend we're going to see a lot more of. So I think that in terms of the blockchain tech, the sector is very much in flux at the moment, and there's sort of deep fundamental reasons why everyone is looking at their chain. At what blockchain they're on, and part of that is business and where can you get grants and all that sort of stuff, and part of that is where can you get audience. So we're seeing that people, Ronin obviously being the sort of prime example in recent months of blockchain that no one was using and now is proving to be pretty popular for games. So there's a lot of movement going on with that.
Yeah, there is. And to continuing on the sort of theme of Polygon, we saw Gas Hero earlier in the week in their NFT sale. It kind of raised the trading volume on Polygon by a lot. It's kind of looking towards breaking the record of all the months how it performed in 2023. So Gas Hero is one of the projects on Polygon doing well.
It's funny.
A bit surprising. It's quite expensive, isn't it?
Well, it's still. It's funny. More generally, it's still the case that Polygon is the most popular, or certainly in the top 2 most popular blockchains for projects. So it's still, it's not like it's sort of dying, but there is a sort of fundamental change there. And Gas Hero is sort of, I'm still a bit confused by it in the sense that you have to buy. I don't know what the price is now, but at one point it was like a $300, $600 NFT to even start playing the game. So. It's sort of been successful, but it's really been, I would say it's been successful within the niche of people who are within the sort of Find Satoshi lab that's as a developer. People who are into those games and have been playing a lot of Steppen because that's the same company and using the same tokens. And those are the people who got on the whitelist for the NFTs. I don't think there's many people who have sort of spent thousands of dollars to play this, to buy the NFTs to play this game. And it's even sort of not. I mean, worse is the wrong term. It's even more peculiar that when you buy that, you can have up to 6 hero characters in your squad. But apart from the very expensive NFTs, those characters die over time. So I don't know whether it just means obviously the NFTs don't die, but they die in terms of how they operate in that game for that period of time. So it's a very, very sort of ultra hardcore blockchain experience. But it's done. It's had 5,000 DAU, so that's clearly not nothing. From I think the total supply of those NFTs you need to play the game is like 10,000. So the 50% of the people who own those NFTs are playing that game. But clearly, when I first read about that game as a mobile game, you're kind of thinking proper mass market, or at least that's the attempt. But it's not available through App Store. It's only available for a browser. So it's interesting, but I'm still a bit confused by it.
And in terms of NFT sales, we have seen Age of Dinos. They raised 5.7 million this week from its first NFT sale. MixMob, I've not got the number of those. They're on Solana. They did their
2.5.
first NFT sale. 2.5. And Arena X Labs raised 6 million for their AI Arena, a Web3 enabled battler game.
We really. Certainly, I mean, the VC funding sort of less so, because that takes time for those sort of deals to close and be announced. So we'll see more of those over the next couple of months. But NFT sales are really quite hot at the moment. So Age of Dinos is I have to be a bit careful what I say. It's I think a traditional sort of 4X mobile game. Those are popular, but they're not mass market. It's a project that's sort of got some halo effect because it's through Xterio, and they're doing the Overworld game, which has been super hot for its NFT sales. But I was pretty surprised. Almost $6 million buying these. I don't know. I don't know quite how they're going to interact with this game, but that is a very I won't say anymore. But the interesting thing actually for that, they did a bidding system, so people could bid. There was a range of prices you could bid on the NFTs. And obviously the people who bid the highest won, so that was the way they were sort of trying to gate it. And all the bids went through at the highest level, so you could just see there was a lot of demand for gaming NFTs, and you're seeing that in the space now. That there's just there's probably going to be very quickly an oversupply of people trying to get NFT drops out, and people sort of slightly playing hot potato to get in on whitelists, flip the NFTs, and then sort of no one then sort of really cares about those things, which obviously is bad. In a sense, it's good for the sector because money's coming in. It's bad for the sector because people are flipping stuff, and you can very easily lose a lot of money buying these NFTs at the wrong time. So we'll see how that ends up. But generally good for the sector. Specifically, can cause problems.
It can be obviously bad in the sense that it drives developers' focus away from creating good games and just looking at the financial aspects of the sector. How the community is seeing these things as financial investments rather than looking to the game itself. So Google Labs.
I would just say that the development of the sector over the last 2 years is good in the sense that the people making Game Philos is the developer behind Age of Dinos, and they're a proper team. They're properly supported. They've raised $6 million in funding. So this is not like some scamps doing an NFT drop and not having a clue how to make a game. Like we have seen. So there's definitely a game. Age of Dinos will come out. I think sometimes, but sometimes there is a disconnect between when a game comes out. Almost like when the game comes out, the NFT prices drop because people are just like, oh, is that the game? They think in their heads that this is things to be much more impressive than it is. But obviously, a game is a game. We all play games; we sort of know what they are. So I think that's sort of the disconnect there. But the quality of the projects at least is 1,000 times better than it has been in the past. So put in that proviso.
Yeah. One game that has got a good not a good community compared to others, but has been well received, I should say, since launching its first season. Bear Slayer is Blocklords. It's got a really active community, and it's our game of the week. You've been playing the Bear Slayer Battle Pass. I've been sticking to the free version, the kind of basic Battle Pass. We're both sort of thoroughly enjoying the game.
Yeah. I mean, it's limited. It's in early access PC game by the Epic Store. I mean, it's still very early in that game. That I don't think people are going to download it and go, "Wow, this is the best game ever." In some ways, it is a sort of idle-based strategy game where you're just collecting resources to upgrade your buildings at the moment. But the Battle Pass does provide that sort of additional sort of reward mechanic that sort of everything you do, you're getting some XP, and that drives you along the Battle Pass. And I guess the final point is if you get to the end of the Battle Pass, you sort of mint out one of the NFT special NFT characters, which you can only get through going through the Battle Pass. So it's one of those things where you're sort of, I mean, it's not play to earn, whatever, but you have to play the game and you get an NFT that you can obviously then use in the game or you can sell. It's not going to be an expensive NFT, but I just kind of think it's another layer, and I think more and more I see blockchain games as there's different layers. There's a sort of gameplay layer, that what you're doing every second by second. There's a sort of a meta layer within that game that the things you're doing second by second build up to day by day, month on month, year on year sort of things in the game. You're sort of leveling up characters or buildings or getting more power. And then there's the blockchain stuff, which can be part of, which can hook into all those sort of aspects of it.
Different layers.
And then you get the synergy around it. Blah blah blah. So I think definitely for Blocklords, we know the team fairly well. I've known them for several years. They're, again, proper team, proper funding. They have a desire to build something very different and new, but also familiar to people who play strategy games. We'll see if their vision, if their ambition can be, if they've got the sort of the wherewithal to fulfil their ambition, because it is a pretty ambitious project. But it is a project that's got at least, I would say, at least a year of features being added to it. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Right.
It's interesting. I would say, I would just say quickly on that point. And it is interesting that they've not really done a lot of NFT sales. So that I think you'll start to see an interesting separation of projects that's sort of like, we can do these NFT sales, raise a lot of money, and then our game's sort of coming, which is slightly disconnected. Whereas and then other projects like them, which have a fully formed, not fully formed, but a game that you can play now. They do have a few very expensive NFTs. Some of their Lord characters have sold for thousands of dollars. But their entry-level NFTs, which, to be fair, don't have a lot of power at the moment, you can buy for like $2. So I think it's interesting that you'll start to see people who really believe in the long term, as in they're well funded and they know this game's going to take years to pull out. They're not going to go for the sort of quick, or maybe they'll be tempted to go for a sort of a quick dip into the market and sell some NFTs. But I hope the best of them will just go. We know a bull market comes, and what happens after the bull market? The bear market. And if you've tried to extract too much money from your community in the bull market, then you're going to have a really bad time, and maybe you'll be on the discontinued list in 3 years' time.
Yeah, but that's where projects like Blocklords, and there are other examples as well. They've not promoted themselves as that sort of flipping sort of a project where you can come in and quickly make a profit on their NFT sales. So maybe that's why they've got a different kind of community that are more in it for the long term and for the actual game. What used to be called Game Dozy from Line Next is now Dozy Platform or Dozy City. I'm not entirely sure, or Dozy App. Anyway, it launched this week. It raised 140 million at the end of 2023, and it's now available on mobile, on Android, and iOS integration is scheduled for later. You've been downloading. I didn't manage to download it, John. I don't know why, but you did.
Yeah, I've not got much to say on this actually. It was a bit of an anticlimax. So basically, they've been running this on browser for the last year or so, 6 months, and now they just put an app through the App Store that does exactly the same thing. So again, very early days for that. They're trying to build quite a big platform. It's a little bit odd, obviously, but they are focusing on the Asian market. So maybe I'm just a bit culturally inept for using it. A bit confusing for me at the moment, I would say. So.
Right. Let's move on. Sky Mavis launched their Mavis store for off-chain in-game items, and you compared it, didn't you, in your Substack to Roblox?
Yep.
Or
no. So again, this is a this is another big trend in the industry, that as Apple and Google are being forced by legislation to open up the payment methods for their app stores. So, still currently, anything through an app store, supposedly you pay 30% of any money you pay to Apple and Google. It's actually not the case, because blah, blah, it's not going into all that. But that's seen as a monopoly, and so lots of now legislation is sort of coming in different countries, forcing them to allow different payment methods. And as part of that, game developers have been selling their in-game in-app purchases. Their in-app purchase stuff through their own website. So the first sort of big one to do that was Supercell, obviously massive mobile game developer, and it started selling gems for like Clash of Clans through a website. And obviously, when you did that, you weren't paying 30% to Apple or Google, so you as the player got a better deal, and they were even, I think in some cases, sort of giving you sort of more gems in spite of the 30%. So obviously that's, for most people, can't be bothered if they're playing a game to come out of the game and go to a website and put in their credit card. The convenience of just tapping. But if you're the people who are spending thousands of dollars a month clearly are going to care about getting $300 extra value. So it's a bigger trend in the industry. The Mavis store is very early days. It only covers Axie Infinity and Battle Bears, and it's only selling off-chain items at the moment. It will sell on-chain items as well as more games come in there. So they're following a trend. It's good. I think just with Sky Mavis at the moment, they're just doing a lot of infrastructure. A lot of, you're starting to see what they've been doing over the last 6 months, last year, building out loads of stuff that's finally sort of coming out now, and it's all really coming together. Looks like in quite a synergetic way. They also announced, it's kind of maybe small stuff, they've also announced like the SLP token, which is the utility token for Axie Infinity. They're going to limit that to 44 billion tokens, which seems like a lot and probably is, but they're just putting these things in place that, putting some rules and some rigor in place, and they're going to actually try to have 2% deflation a year, so they're burning more tokens than have been created, and just trying to tighten up Axie as a project. So yeah, a whole bunch of stuff going on with them.
Excellent, good roundup, John. Thank you very much for all your good insight.
Busy week. Yeah, busy week, isn't it? Yeah, it's really the year has started with a bang. I just kind of think it's going to have just everyone is just desperate, I think, to announce the stuff they've been working on, and probably some people are going to be announcing stuff sort of early because this is just the time to do it. So you think of all those projects, you think we have 50 most anticipated games, and all of them are going to be announcing loads of stuff. Ubisoft hopefully going live pretty soon with Champions Tactics and all that stuff. Yeah,
lots going on for Animaker brands. We've got we've got some good news coming up next week that we can't talk about yet. We got your podcast requests are rolling in, so it's all picking up.
Lots of it's good. Yeah, lots of people to talk to on the podcast as well. Yeah, the big hitters.
Good. Say, wouldn't we? Yeah. Right, and with that, we are going to round it off for this week and say bye bye, and we'll see you all next week. Bye bye.
See you. Goodbye.